Hi, folks. All right. Looking at your initial topic proposals and talking to you, I see that several of you are still trying to figure out, but how do I make my essay more arguable? That you're not sure if the direction that you're going, you're afraid that it might be too obvious. So, we're going to talk about two ways that you can make your essay more arguable. The first thing you can do, remember how I suggested that you start by saying, what's the question that you want your essay to explore? Um, if you've already answered that question and you feel like your answer seems really obvious, keep asking follow up questions. Keep pushing your answer further until your answer moves beyond summary. Another way to think of it is to keep asking, well, so what? What are the implications? So let's say your first question that you started with was, what does the novel say about how humans respond to appearance? So you might answer that at first by saying human beings judge others by appearance. Okay, yes, absolutely. The novel certainly says that. But you know what? I think 100 out of 100 readers of Frankenstein are going to get that point, right? They're all going to understand that human beings judge others by appearance. So, while that might have been a useful initial question, it doesn't necessarily get you far enough along in the process of discovering your thesis. So start asking some follow up questions. You might ask, okay, well, what are the impacts of that judgment? What is gained and what is lost, both for the individuals involved and for humanity in general? Is Shelley saying that this judgment is a natural response and therefore inevitable? Or is she criticizing the characters for their failure to move beyond this first response? So, yes, if we can all agree, if all readers would agree that human beings judge others by appearance, then start to say, okay, well, then so what? Why is that interesting or thought provoking? What are some of the implications of that? Let's say, or if your initial question was, what is Shelley saying about ambition? Well, you're probably going to answer by saying that the novel shows that ambition can be dangerous. Great. I think that's fair. But so now you want to start asking, well, is she qualifying that at all? Is it always dangerous? Is it sometimes dangerous? Is it never dangerous? Why is it dangerous? To what extent is it dangerous? Start to qualify that position. Go for a little more nuance. The other framing that's really useful if you're trying to make your thesis more arguable is that introduction structure that we talked about when you wrote your things they carried skeleton essays. We talked about saying, they say such and such because, however, so I say. That framing structure, you don't need to necessarily write your introduction according to that, but I find it's very helpful as a thinking process to sort of push me forward and recognize what is actually arguable, what is the interesting argument in a topic. So, to go back to the topic of appearance, I might start with the they say, the thing that most people would agree with. In the novel, all people who see the creature are immediately repulsed. I think that's true. The only one who isn't repulsed is the blind old man. And because he looks inhuman, he's possibly dangerous. Even the otherwise saintly characters like Felix reject him and try to damage him. So the however is the part that makes you go, but why would I question the they say? What goes against the they say? So one however might be in his final speech, the creature calls out Felix and others for their response to him. And interestingly, Shelley allows the creature's final statement to go unrefuted. He gets the last word in the novel. So how would I resolve that? All the people are repulsed, but the creature calls them out and that goes unrefuted. So how can I pull that into a thesis? That's going to be my so I say. You can apply this structure to if you're doing the lens essay, the issue essay. So, for instance, if I were doing it about Facebook, I might start with the they say. They could be Mark Zuckerberg, right? Mark Zuckerberg insists that Facebook is not responsible for its platform being used to disseminate fake news because he didn't design it for that purpose and he cannot control how people use his invention. But so then what calls it into question? What's the however? And this is where the interaction between the book and the issue comes into play. So my however in this case might be, well, but in Frankenstein, Mary Shelley shows that Victor's negligence was directly responsible for the creature killing four people. And so then my so I say could be, so Frankenstein illustrates why we shouldn't let Zuckerberg get away with blaming the monster. He created Facebook and he must take responsibility for its consequences. I could do something similar if I were doing a film essay. If, let's say, I were going to write about the Apple commercial I showed you. So my they say could be, in Apple's commercial Frankie's Holiday, Apple depicts people as ultimately kind and accepting. So in this case, the they say is sort of Apple's presentation of humanity. And I think they do that because the people's resistance to the creature is so quickly conquered once the little girl leads by example. So again, the book then adds my however. However, this really contrasts with the behavior of the people in Shelley's novel, none of whom ever accept the creature or interact with him voluntarily. And so then I would pull those together and to think about how does the commercial make me see Frankenstein differently? So I would say Apple's warm, fuzzy view of humanity emphasizes how negative Shelley's view of people really is. She depicts humanity as rigidly committed to first impressions, which leads us to squander the creature's innate benevolence and intelligence. So, either of those tactics, like keeping asking follow up questions or utilizing the they say, because, however, so I say construction, can really help you push your thesis forward and make it more arguable. If you're having a hard time with that, please let me know. So, once you feel that you have your outline in good shape and you're ready to start drafting, this is a continuation from our work with the Frankenstein paragraphs from last week. As you write your analysis, I really want you to push yourself to use very precise words, especially in your thesis statement and topic sentences. So I showed you some of that last week. You want to watch out for general words like different and certain. It doesn't mean you can't ever use them, but you do want to try to state exactly what you mean. And sometimes I find students say something like, Sonny's response to suffering is different from his brother's. And so now you feel like you've made your point, but I still don't really understand it. You haven't told me how or why Sonny's suffering is different. So you might stay and said, unlike his brother, Sonny confronts his suffering directly. And I've given you more examples here on the slide. You're welcome to pause it and take a look at it. Looking at your Frankenstein paragraphs from last week, most of you did this, are really making progress in this area. So I would warn you with your topic sentences, not warn you, but with your topic sentences, encourage you, push yourself to state your point as clearly as possible. I think that it's easy to become comfortable with writing really general topic sentences like this. Victor's actions represent a change in his mental processes, or Victor's actions show that his thinking has not changed. So, by themselves, there's nothing wrong with those sentences. They can absolutely lead to excellent paragraphs. And several people wrote topic sentences like that and received A's on their Frankenstein paragraphs. Like it doesn't sink your paragraph. But um, if you make your topic sentence more precise, I think you're more likely to write a really tight and specific analysis because you start um, with a more complex idea right away. So, for instance, instead of just saying Victor's actions represent a change, identify the change. You could do it like this: Victor's description of his progress represents a breakthrough in his thinking, with his focus shifting from himself and his own successes to the destruction and potential consequences on future generations. So that topic sentence lays out very clearly what the change is that the paragraph is going to be exploring. And you don't have to do it, it doesn't have to be as long as that one. I think this next topic sentence is also strong. For the first time in this novel, Victor takes into account the effects that his experiments will have on the rest of humanity. What both of those topic sentences have in common is they identify what the change is from the very beginning. And so when you do that, you're more likely to get to specific analysis. That if you start very general, it often takes you a long time to move to the specific. One last example that I thought was strong. An example, this paragraph was arguing that Victor's actions have not shows his thinking has not changed. Victor has not broken free from his previous mental processes because what ultimately drives him to destroy the companion is his own repulsion and subjective view toward the creature. So, what I think this writer is doing is saying Victor's thinking hasn't changed, but then they're adding because, and because often leads you to more specific analysis. So, keep that in mind as you start working on your drafts. Ask me if you need help, and good luck. I'll see you soon.